Thank you. Okay, some people in. Okay, and we are now live. Okay, and everyone is muted. Good, good, good. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, good morning, everyone. Can we hear? I've got a slightly new setup today. Got a couple of gadgets I purchased to try and help with our internet and sound. So, okay. It's working. Okay, good. So good morning, everybody. And I see we got 38 people so far. It's me, Reverend Leonisa. It's been a while, it seems like. For our guests, I'm the minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Catskills. We welcome everyone to our virtual, ongoing Zoom life and service this Sunday morning, July 12th. Whomever you are, whoever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. I'm not sure how many guests we have today, but if you are new to Unitarian Universalism, we are a liberal religious faith that carries no creed and welcomes all seekers into our fold. We are guided by 7 principles and 6 sources that encompass the many different ways we come to know and understand the world, the universe, and the divine. At UU Catskills, we affirm that Black Lives Matter. We are an official welcoming congregation for members of the LGBTQ community. We are a congregational affiliate of the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network, and we are active voices in the effort to address climate change.
I think, I'm sorry, everybody. I think we're having some technical difficulties. Just hang on and we'll try to work it out.
volume set up. All the way up.
Hey, Catherine, Lenisa would like you to go ahead and play the prelude for now.
Okay. Any luck?
Yes, I am back.
Yay.
Yay. You know, I was using Ethernet, which is supposed to be more reliable, and apparently it's, I don't know. So thank you, Catherine, for one of my favorite songs there, actually. So, okay, I had a few announcements, but we are going to let them go, and you'll just have to read your newsletter and your updates to get them. So please do that. Our opening words this morning come from Vietnamese American Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen. God who is with us in the courtrooms, at the border, in the streets, in the struggle. We do not know if this arc bends toward justice. The great test of our Unitarian Universalist faith is not whether we believe we can bend the arc, but how we are when the bending looks oh so differently from what we expected. When we're met with swear words when we expected songs. When we're met with a group of white people talking about white identity when we expected multiracial community. When we're met with people of color space when we expected multiracial community. May we know the sacredness of people of color space, the holiness of white people supporting each other, and the power of cursing at injustice. When our efforts feel frustrating and hopeless, when we expected to see outcomes. When our people's bodies are dying in the streets and we have no idea how to be all right. When our people's spirits are dying from the grinding violence of white supremacy. When the era of Ferguson becomes the era of Baltimore, becomes the era of Charleston, and we don't know what is next. When we've been in this work for 6 years or 6 decades, and we look around at our congregation, our local police, our schools, our prisons, and we have no idea what justice could look like. Our faith teaches us 2 truths, that we are always enough, that the great circle of love casts no one out, and that we are responsible for bending our small piece of the arc, for finding our own racial justice front lines. When we find our front lines, we find not only our hope, but we also find our most effective action. Former UU writer and theologian Kenny Wiley says in his UU Black Lives Matter theology, right now, we are being called by our ancestors, by our principals, by young Black activists across the country to promote and affirm, you are young and Black and your life matters just the same. You stole something and your life matters just the same. I have been taught to fear you and your life matters just the same. The police are releasing your criminal record and your life matters just the same. They are calling you a thug and your life matters just the same. There are no exceptions. Black Lives Matter is universalism in practice. May it be so, and let us worship together. We begin with our unison affirmation, which I will put on the screen. I hear someone, I just want to make sure that everyone is muted. So just double check that. Okay. Okay, we begin with our unison affirmation. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love to all living beings. May we know once again that we are not isolated, but connected in wonder and joy to mystery and miracle in the universe, in this community, and each other. And now we will light our chalice. Oh, mine's over here. Does everyone have a chalice? And we have our chat. Thank you. Matches. If you'd like to light where you're, post where you're lighting. We light this chalice in grateful, loving community. Even in the darkest of times, may its flame light paths to courage, justice, and hope. And so let's sing our first hymn. I'm going to unmute Catherine. And I have the lyrics that I will put into the, so Catherine and I had this conversation about doing like a monthly hymn because, and I was recently very inspired by this We Give Thanks hymn. So that's why we chose this one. So I'll put the lyrics in the
Okay. Wrong key. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for those gathered here and those far away, for the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Becky. Thank you. Okay, our story this morning. So we know that we're gathered today. We're going to talk about the eighth principle, or that's our idea. So when I was looking for stories, I picked one that is written by one of my favorite authors who wrote one of my favorite books that I use to this day when I teach. It's called Teaching to Transgress. Then it's by Bell Hooks. Bell Hooks also wrote this children's book called Skin Again. And I will share my screen. Why won't it show that screen? Oh, PowerPoint. There we go. Okay. Skin Again, written by Bell Hooks, illustrated by Chris Rashka. The skin I'm in is just a covering. It cannot tell my whole story. The skin I'm in is just a covering. If you want to know who I am, you have got to come inside and open your heart way wide. The skin I'm in looks good to me. It will let you know one small way to trace my identity. But then again, the skin I'm in will always be just a covering. It cannot tell my story. If you want to know who I am, you have got to come inside. Be with me inside the me of me, all made up of stories, present, past, future. Some true to life, and others all fun and fantasy, all the way I imagine me. You can find all about me coming close and letting go of who you might think I am. Before you come inside and let me be real, and you become real to me. All real then, in that place where skin again is one small way to see me, but not real enough to be all the me, the you of you. For we are all inside, made up of real history, real dreams, and the stuff of all we hope for when we can be all real together on the inside. I like that story. And later on, hopefully it'll help inform us some of our ideas. I'm now finally able to see some of you, so this is nice, but I'm going to invite us all with that idea of the real me, and not just seeing me on one level or on the outside, seeing the me of me. Let's take a journey inside. Let's turn our attention inwards and enter into a time for contemplation and compassion. Take a few deep breaths as you let yourself fully come into the present moment. Let's start with a moment or so of silence, just to be fully grounded. Feel your feet on the floor. I invite you now to take some time to reflect on any sadnesses, disappointments, or losses you are feeling. Honor yourself and your feelings. If you'd like to share these feelings in the chat, I invite you to do so. I invite you to bring your sadness, your burdens, your sense of shortcomings into this space with your community and lay them down. Take a moment to bring to mind a joy or a thought of a blessing. Let those warm, joyful feelings fill your body. Breathe deep. Feel held by your community. I'm going to share a joy that my cat, who likes to hunt, brought me a leaf just now because she's clearly a vegetarian hunter. So I'm going to share the joy of a loved one bringing you something that they meant for you with all of you. Paul is getting a kitten. There's a mix of disappointment of not opening, the joy of negative COVID tests, working to free trafficked women in Saudi Arabia. We're all aware that we have members of our community who we want to surround with prayer and loving kindness. Maybe some of these joyful images we can channel and send them joy. The hummingbirds, we have two shout outs for the hummingbirds. I invite you to speak the names of those whom you would like to surround with prayer and loving kindness. I'm going to put the names of Regina Packard, Heather McLean, Paula Silby, and Don Critchell into the room. And I invite you to whisper the names of others you'd like to surround with prayer. like to add the name of Nick Cordero and his family, Amanda and Elvis. He passed after 95 days in a coma related to COVID. We have many friends who are fighting illness and who are in need of our collective light surrounding them. I encourage you, as I often do, to make a prayer list. Doesn't matter who you're praying to, just writing the names of the people you are caring about. They'll feel it. Spirit of life, hear all these prayers, the sadness and the joy, the fear and the blessings, the worry and the wonder. Carry our prayers as we carry one another in community. Fill our hearts with love and support and the knowledge that we have one another to lean on. Give us strength for the work that lies ahead of us. Amen. We're going to move into our offering with one of my favorite hymns by Dr. Isay Barnwell, entitled We Are. And I'm going to play a recording that she made with the Unitarian Universalist General Assembly Choir. And remind us that this month, our partner Shared Plate goes to the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network. We know that our immigrant siblings need our support. They often don't have access to food pantries and other services because of their status. So please give generously, and I know Karma has instructed us in the ways to do that, but I will put it again on the screen. Oops, where's the video? I embedded the video. Why is it not working? I am really sorry. Don't know what. It says it's there. Give me one moment to, there we go. This gets really tiring, this technology. Wish it would just be my friend. There we go. Mamma mia. Okay, I'm gonna go try a different method. Give me one moment.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of daughters. dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Isn't that a beautiful version of that song? I'm sure there was a lag because originally I had embedded it, which would have made it better, but so I can put that link, I think I did already in our Facebook, but I will share it because it's a beautiful version. And I just like the images evoking our ancestors and how many of us call upon our ancestors to remind us of what we've been through to be able to have strength for the fight ahead of us. I guess I'll just say it that way. So I want to thank you for your generosity in our offering. I do want to say that I'm kind of blown away. We had a board meeting last week, and we have been raising money for local community organizations, and I'm just incredibly moved by how much we've raised. And I feel like we are just doing right by the people in our community. So I thank you and encourage you to continue with that. So today we're talking about the eighth principle. The worship committee and I decided that this summer we wanted to spend our time looking at our 7 principles. And it made sense to kind of start with the outlier, the 8th principle, not an official principle, a proposal. And I am going to share a little background with you as our reading. There is a website called 8thprincipleuu.org that I would encourage you to visit, since this is going to be an ongoing conversation. But here's a section that they call, "Where did this come from originally?" Paula Cole Jones, who many of us interacted with through our Hudson Mohawk service, she's the director of racial and social justice, developed the idea of the existence of 2 different paradigms in UU circles: the UU 7 principles and beloved community, or deep multiculturalism. After working with congregations on these issues for over 15 years, she realized that a person can believe they are being a good UU and following the 7 principles without thinking about or dealing with racism and other oppressions at the systemic level. Evidence? Most UU congregations are primarily European American in membership, culture, especially music, and leadership, even when located near diverse communities. She realized that an 8th principle was needed to correct this and talked with Bruce Pollock Johnson about some of the components that should be in it. Bruce put together an initial draft in 2013, and the two of them worked with a group of anti-racist activists in their region to refine it. Bruce's congregation incorporated it into their covenant at that time, and then in May 2017, formally adopted it for themselves and recommended that the UUA adopt it. UUs and the UUA have done very good work in fighting racism, such as during the Civil Rights Movement and in the 90s, passing a resolution at the 1997 GA after a precursor resolution in 1992 to become an anti-racist, anti-oppression, multicultural organization. But the funding and support started to wane in the 2000s. Our accountability mechanisms failed us. UUs also have a mixed record historically in other areas of racial justice, e.g. we had people on both sides of abolitionism, including Jefferson, who was a slave holder, and Unitarians were proponents of eugenics, leading to some of the racial extremes of Nazism and apartheid in South Africa. For people identified as white, it is too easy to ignore these issues, which is exactly what keeps the system of racism in our society alive, and in fact, worsening right now. We need to decenter whiteness and other dominant cultures in Unitarian Universalism. So all of that and more is on the website. The 8th principle came from a feeling that we need something to renew our commitment to this work, to hold ourselves accountable, and to fulfill the potential of our existing principles. This year's General Assembly, which I so enjoyed, even though it was all on Zoom, truly called all UUs into the work of moving our faith forward by addressing the structural inequalities that exist in society, acknowledging our failures to do so in the past, and pledging to create congregational communities that are able to examine white supremacy and take actions both within and beyond our walls. Over the next congregational year, I and others from the congregation will be offering small group ministries, Sunday services, discussion groups, and action plans so we can live into these UUA aims. I do hope you'll become involved. Today, we begin this deep dive with a look at the proposed 8th principle. I'm going to read it now. I also have it on a slide, but I no longer trust my slideshow, so I am just going to read it. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote, journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. The Brood Awakenings group and the Racial Justice group have read this already and begun some discussion around it. I know folks have already taken issue with the wording, but let's look past that for now and look closely at the intent and the impact of this principle. We all became UUs for different reasons, right? Some of you were lucky enough to be cradle UUs, and many of us, myself included, found Unitarian Universalism later in life, and in it found a religious and spiritual home that matched our worldview. Our 7 principles, I hope for all of us, serve as guiding tools for how to live in the world. I met someone in a Zoom room at GA who told me that when she is faced with a question or a concern or political issue, she takes a breath and asks herself, what are the principles guiding me to do? Our 7 principles cover a lot. They are in fact excellent guideposts. Certainly, we can, if we take the time, infer that caring for all of the members of our human community is embedded in them. But our UU history and even our present reality tells a different story. Our UU history tells us that we have not done right or nearly enough to address white supremacy and structural violence in this country. As expressed in our reading and can be seen even in the seats of UU Catskills, we can be a fairly white or European American religion that alleges to want diversity, yet hasn't found a way yet to be truly inclusive. We want people to come to us without understanding why they may not want to. We claim to want more BIPOC, which stands for Black, Indigenous, People of Color members. Yet when BIPOC visitors or even members do come through our doors, they are met with microaggressions or outright questionable behavior by white UUs. We have yet to shed the paternalistic notions we have as do-gooders and often see ourselves as helping the needy rather than listening to the needs of others. And we also have trouble stepping back to let the voices of the underrepresented, marginalized, and disenfranchised lead us. While in some ways we are making progress, there is much more to be done. And I believe that the eighth principle may help us to not only unpack our UU history, but also do the personal, internal, heavy lifting necessary to do the true work of dismantling our unjust, oppressive, systemic ills, thus allowing for the creation of a true, egalitarian, beloved community. If the 7 principles have not helped us dismantle structural oppression thus far, then maybe we do need an 8th to make it clear, to put in bold letters, this is what we will do. We cannot we cannot dismantle systems of oppression by thinking the way we always have. As a newcomer to UU Catskills, I don't know all the details about the history of our Black Lives Matter sign, but I've heard a lot from a variety of members. And I'd like to say that we cannot vote to hang a Black Lives Matter banner, then take 2 years to actually hang it without recognizing that that act, that 2-year lag, was a tacit statement that maybe we don't really believe in that banner and what it stands for. A Black Lives Matter banner is not a flag of convenience or a show of performative activism. It is a clarion call to honor the lives of those who have suffered the most in the history of this country. To say out loud and publicly that we condemn police brutality, we condemn mass incarceration, we condemn the brutal deaths of Black people at the hands of white people. We condemn the violence deeply embedded in our structures and institutions that manifest as unequal educational opportunity and practice, unequal and oftentimes deadly healthcare practices and policies, unequal justice that places stronger punishments on those with darker skins. If we want a more diverse and inclusive UU Catskills community, then we have to examine who we are missing, who we are ignoring or undervaluing, and then make a commitment to dismantle the structures that perpetuate these injustices, even if it means our lives will have to change, even if it means we have to make sacrifices, even if it means giving up our privilege. As Brazilian educator Paulo Freire said, as did the father of Black liberation theology, Dr. James Cone. When we dismantle these violent systems, we not only free the oppressed, but we also free the oppressor. We cannot have a truly just society when even one member of our society is marginalized. We cannot be free until we are all free. And may we also remember the words of Nelson Mandela: "It always seems impossible until it is done." Friends, let us live into the eighth principle. Let us do the work with honesty and humility. Let us dismantle structural racism and structural violence and usher in a true age of beloved community. May it be so. And with that, we're going to sing Fire of Commitment, because that's what I'm feeling. And let's hope it works.
From the flight of days remembered, burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fallen
Wow, you take a week off and your technology skills go back to zero. Jeepers. I had to hide my image for a moment because I just was bawling, because Fire of Commitment is like the song that reminds me why I became a minister and why I do the work I do, and why services are one thing, but us being in the streets and being on the ground with people is what we are called to do, what I am called to do. So I hope you will join me, because my fervor is not going anywhere. And if I have to cry my way through it, I will just keep crying my way through it. So thank you all for being here with me this morning. Our closing words come from Brittany Packnett, African-American activist, and it's adapted from her You Wear lecture, which she gave in 2018. You can't be prejudiced, racist, sexist, or homophobic. After all, you belong to this faith. You don't carry pitchforks and march with the Charlottesville gang. You don't vote for Trump, and you started the Women's March chapter in your city. You are a good person with good intentions. You love everyone, and your tax returns prove it. But I challenge you, I charge you, if here is where you're tuned out, this is precisely and exactly the time to tune in. Do you love people of color, or do you tolerate us as long as we aren't too disruptive to your agenda? Do you love LGBTQ people, or do you only love the cis white male ones and forget the L, B, the T, and the Q, especially the ones of color in your fight? Do you reflect the culture of your congregation in your leadership, or do you check boxes and fill quotas? You do not have to be white supremacist to benefit from white supremacy, any more than you have to be a misogynist to still benefit from the patriarchy, or a homophobe to still benefit from straight privilege. It is not enough just to be not a racist. We must expect ourselves to be actively anti-racist. It is not enough to not be sexist. We must expect ourselves to be intentionally and consistently disruptive of gender discrimination. It is not enough to not be transphobic. We must expect ourselves to be obsessed with supporting the achievement of justice for trans people across the globe, as we are with our own. May it be so. Let's extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. Thank you all for being here this morning. If anyone is interested in sticking around for a breakout group for a little while to talk about the eighth principle, I'm happy to stick around for 10 or 15 minutes if we want. Since it's not that lovely a day, I don't mind staying indoors a little longer, but it's really up to you. So if you don't want to stick around, you can just sign off. Please make sure you're reading the newsletter and the weekly updates, because I am taking some much needed breaks this summer. And the worship committee is working their wee bottoms off to plan great services this summer. So please keep coming back. Let's be here together. I'm working with them. We are doing this. We want to keep our spirits lifted and keep our eyes on the prize over the summer. So I encourage you all to find ways to get involved. Shoot me an email if you've got thoughts and things you want to talk about. And I do want to say one last thing. I need to give a shout out to my husband, Michael, who you already know is a fantastic human being, but he is my production assistant, right? And I like pay him in beer. That's like it, I don't know. And love, unconditional love. But I just want you to know what like it takes for us to make this happen. And Michael is part of that. And he isn't even a Unitarian Universalist. And he sits here every Sunday with me. So yeah. And thank you, Michael. You're getting that. He's red as a beet right now. And he's gonna so thank you. You're getting I just felt the need to give him the props. And yes, if people could check in with Heather and Regina, I think that would be wonderful. So yeah. And I miss you all. I do love you all. I hope we could find ways over the summer. We do have some schemes happening. So read your emails. Okay. So if you're sticking around, stick around and I'll make some breakout rooms. All right. Yeah. Thank you all. I'll unmute everybody now too. How to do that? They changed that.
I'm unmuted.
Okay. Ask all to unmute.
Unmute.
Unmute. That way when we go in the rooms, we're not.
Unmute.
Unmute. Hi, Austin. I heard your voice first. I'm unmuted. Good.
Can you
All
hear
right.
me?
So if everyone's here, do we want to go into breakout rooms?
Yeah.
Jane, are you doing the kids? Am I putting you in a room?
Yes, so it's,
I'm sorry.
it would
Okay.
be
I'm gonna,
me, Austin, and I think Aaron's kids are here too.
okay. So do manual. So this is going to take a moment.
Hazel is camping, Jane.
I'm sorry?
Hazel went camping.
Oh,
Ooh, lucky Hazel.
okay, good for her.
Hi. Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
hi,
don't know.
Bobby.
Yeah,
Can
finally. I
anyone
got
hear me?
fixed.
Yes.
Can hear you.
Stan.
This is Stan trying to talk to anyone there.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Stan. Hi, Stan.
Oh,
Hi, Cheryl.
Down here, he's at 1490.
okay.
Yeah.
I want,
You know,
Yes.
I became a UU because the Unitarian, it was a church then, was right in the heart of Newburgh. And I felt that that was important, that it was physically there, and I wanted to be
Dan, can you hear us?
part of something in the heart of the city. And I was also at the time very active in the NAACP. And then I found out a month later they were moving to Rock Tavern.
Oh.
But I did, we were there for a while. And there were a few people of color who were members. I think it's a very complicated thing. I mean, I know for many, many years I was involved with a Black friend, lover.
I guess this is a room.
I don't think I had any prejudices. I went to the March on Washington when I was a little kid, and I heard the N-word from a friend's mother, joined with dirty. I said, Emmy isn't any dirtier than you are, Mrs. Armour. And I was 4 years old. So I really don't know what